Stamullen, and then we take it from there. Thank you very much.
And everybody get a good night's sleep tonight.
So if we start with Stamullen and we get the overview from Alan.
Yes, thank you, Cathaoirleach. So I just have the draft plan zoning map for Stamullen up on the screen there. So I'll just outline some of the main zonings in the settlement. So regarding the development strategy for Stamullen, it will focus on the development of the settlement as a local service and employment centre. The town has developed as a commuter settlement primarily due to its proximity to Dublin and the associated role in rail links via the M1 and Gormanston rail station. The City North Business Campus is strategically located, as you can see, off the M1 at Junction 7. However, the absence of a direct road link to the campus from Stamullen is recognised in the draft plan as inhibiting the creation of a synergy between the town and the employment zone. So you can see the dotted indicative routes there on the map, which would improve the synergy and connection between the town centre and the business park there. The further development and enhancement of the City North Business Park is recognised as the plan as assisting with job creation. It is recognised that there is huge potential within the business park. It is zoned E3 warehousing and distribution and is located strategically adjoining the motorway there between Dublin and Belfast. So it is recognised as an important asset and huge potential to create jobs for the settlement and East Meath. Future residential development in the town will focus on consolidation and the completion of extant permissions. On this parcel of land here, there is existing permission for 215 units, which is adjacent to the east of the GAA club. The household allocation for the planned period is 290 units. The existing town centre, which is the blue zoning, which I'm just highlighting there, it extends along the main street. And it also incorporates various infill sites and backland development opportunities, both sides of the roadway, which would cater for commercial, retail, and an element of residential development also. The provision of a walkway along the Delvin River and the development of these lands to provide for both active and passive open space is also a key priority for the draft plan in order to provide amenity provision for the town. Stamullen Objective 16 is to facilitate the delivery of a playground on land identified around Stadalt House or on the land adjoining, or on the open space zoning along the Delvin River. So there is a significant, just move the cursor here, sorry. There is a significant G1 zoning around Stadalt House there, which I'm highlighting, and then you've got the F1 open space zoning along the Delvin River as well. So it is an objective of the plan to provide a playground within that general area, either on the F1 or the G1 zoning. It is also an objective, Stamullen Objective 18, to provide for the expansion of existing community facilities on these lands surrounding Stadalt House. So in summary, the vision for Stamullen is to enhance connectivity within the town and between the town and the City North Business Campus, and promote Stamullen as a destination for further economic investment and the provision of additional community facilities. And a local area plan will also be prepared for Stamullen also. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. So what we might do is just get the overview of the notice of motions and submissions from Sean. And if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask now, rather than maybe starting into a series of discussions, unless you want to start into, we'd say, notice of motion 153, or if you prefer to leave that till the morning. But if you have any general questions that might frame your thinking overnight, and then potentially we could start into 153 first thing in the morning. But it's entirely up to yourselves what you want to do. Sean?
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Yes, for Stamullen, we've received 15 submissions, 14 where no change is recommended and 1 where change is recommended, and 2 notices of motion which are contained in the Chief Executive's book dated October 2020, beginning with notice of motion number 153. Thank you.
Is there notice of motions from the floor?
There are a number of notice of motions from the floor. I'll tell you now. 2. Thank you, Ciara.
And do they relate in any way to the notice of motions in the book?
Not that I'm aware of at present.
Okay. Okay, and Councillor Smith, you raised your hand there. You okay?
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's
Okay,
fine.
no problem. So what we can do is, do we want to, if there's any, there you go again. If there's any general questions, because it is 5:45 now, it might, if we're looking to finish at 6 o'clock, discussion on 153 might take us beyond that. So do we want to call it now and then recommence with 153 in the morning? Does anybody?
Yeah.
Anyone not?
Adjourn.
We move to adjourn, so?
I'd agree with that. I think we should adjourn now. Yeah.
Okay.
Agree. Enough is enough.
Okie dokie. So with that, we'll adjourn until 10 o'clock on the AM. A historic day. We're sitting on a Saturday, and this is a county development plan full of historical firsts. So
We had a few of them today.
we did, yeah. That's exactly right. So thank you very much for your help and cooperation today, Councillor Toot.
Just very briefly, Cahir, look, can I just most sincerely thank everybody for all of the contributions, all of the clarifications and the technical expertise as well. And in particular, thank you for allowing the time at the settlement of Ratoath. It's so important that we did thrash things out, as it were, whilst the outcome may not be to my liking. I think we had a very full and frank discussion. So to thank everybody and to thank Mr. McEntee for the his counsel throughout the day as well. Thank you very much, everybody.
Excellent. With that, we'll say good night. God bless. We'll see you in the morning.
Look, so-
Early to
Thanks,
bed.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Did I ever tell you when I was here, like I met Leo Varadkar, he was only after taking over as leader and Taoiseach, and he'd heard that I was actually made Cahirlock, and we were at a function in the Royal Hospital, and he says to me, "Did you get a car?" And I said, "No, Des Foley gave me a tie."
I didn't even get the tie, thanks, Jerry. Or a pint. You're lucky oak getting a tie.
Yes, exactly.
Bring me on, the blue one this morning in honour of you.
So that was the thing, you know, in Fingal they got a car for you. We got a tie. You got, what did you get, a badge, was it?
I got a badge, yeah. Sorry, I tell you, I got a badge. I got land of a parking space. That's a land he's using during the week, I noticed, Councillor Tobin.
Yeah, well, he used to, Clear don't be put off by that. He used to park in my spot and then send me a photograph of it.
Well, that happened the other day.
The best one will be Wayne Harding. And
So the members of the public are just arriving now.
Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Let members of the public and the press in.
Good morning, everybody.
Joe Bonner has shared his screen there, I think, by accident, has he?
Yeah, it's up around.
Is it snowing hard in Ashbourne? Looks like it is. It's a whiteout.
At least it was blank.
That was a picture of the snow in Ashbourne. Oh, be dad.
Superman.
Superman. Superman.
We'll have to add a line in here. No pajamas at the meeting.
The legal advisor got a great laugh there.
You wouldn't be allowed into Centra wearing that. Never mind. The meeting. or an Irish high street store. Sorry. Or a German discount store. Okay, so what we do is we commence the meeting if everybody is here. Just to go through the key directions with the additional one already mentioned, no pajamas. So and we start the meeting now formally. So all participants must have their cameras switched on during the meeting, and you should have your microphone on mute at all times unless called upon by the Cathaoirleach to speak. It is the personal responsibility of all participants to ensure that there are no other persons present who are not entitled to be present for this meeting. Recording of the meeting or any part thereof is not permitted. No member of the public should attempt to speak or interrupt the meeting or interact with members of the council during the meeting. You must observe a direction given by the Cathaoirleach or a council official, and failure to follow any direction may result in exclusion from the meeting. For members specifically, if you wish to speak, you should use the hand function. You'll be given the floor, and the hand function will also be used for voting unless we have a roll call. So that's it. Again, I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting, and we'll hand you over to Sean to do the statutory declarations.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Just going to ask the administrator to let me in there, please. Thank you. Members, just the usual reminder with regards to the ethical framework for local government services and the code of conduct for councillors, and you being individually responsible for being compliant with same. It's an offence if you fail to comply with some sections of the ethical framework. Again, in terms of disclosure at meetings, if a matter should arise before a meeting for consideration with someone with whom you are connected to or have a beneficial interest with, you must disclose to the meeting the nature of the beneficial interest before discussion or consideration of the matter. You must physically absent yourself from the meeting until the matter is concluded, and the disclosure and your absence will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. You should then also inform the council's ethics register in writing after the meeting of the nature of your beneficial interest so that your register of interests can be updated. If you're not present at the meeting, however, you still have a conflict of interest, then you must make your disclosure in writing and furnish it to the council's ethics register in advance of the meeting. And again, the disclosure shall be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. In making a development plan, members, you're reminded you're restricted to considering the proper planning and sustainable development of the area to which the plan relates, and to the statutory obligations of any local authority in the area and any relevant policies or objectives for the time being for the government and or minister of the government. Thank you.
I'd like to add.
Again, we just remind people, if everybody, participants and members, just to make sure that your microphone is on mute. Thank you. So we recommence with Stamullen. Notice of motion 154. Councillor Alan Tobin. If you have a second for them.
Sorry, Cathaoirleach. I want to make a statement, if you let me.
Councillor Killian, yeah, absolutely.
And I want this recorded in the minutes, please. On mature reflection overnight, I have come to the decision that it is in the best interests of my constituents, who have repeatedly elected me to Meath County Council over the past 22 years, that I withdraw my remarks of yesterday under duress. End of statement.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor.
Look.
Councillor Tommy Riley.
I'd like to thank Councillor Killian on that remark. And I wanted to say that happened on a Saturday, in your departure. I want to congratulate you on the way you've handled this whole meetings so far. Who knew 6 months ago we'd be doing the development plan by Zoom? Have been very fair. I think Councillor Killian on last Wednesday when he was on the latitude, he was speaking about somebody in both, and I thought he was going to ask us to write to the Pope to canonise the person. Thanks, Councillor Killeen, and thank you, Chair, and hope we can get off on a good foot. A bit of sense. Thank you, Councillor Killeen.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Thank you, Councillor Killeen. And we will resume the meeting now. If everyone is in agreement, we consider that matter dealt with, if that's okay with everybody. And we'll move on to Councillor Smith. Councillor Smith? You want to second the motion?
I raised it to second the motion.
Councillor Smith, thank you very much. So Councillor Tobin.
Good morning, good morning, everybody. So we had an overview of Stamullen there yesterday from the council's point of view, I suppose, and from our own point of view. Stamullen is an area, 3,500 population. Is like Ashburn, like a lot of the areas in South Meath. There are, I suppose, amenity deficits, we'll call them, where for many years now, and I'm almost 7 years a councillor, and I've been working with, in particular, two community groups that really have been doing sterling work over there to highlight the issues. One being SNAP, which is Stamullen Needs a Playground, and the other one, Stamullen Community Alert. Both organisations, as I say, have been representing Stamullen in a really good way, and have presented to us in the Ashburn Municipal District as well. So I suppose where these motions are coming from is where we want a playground. Stamullen needs a playground. They need somewhere for the kids to play. Very young population, very similar to Ashburn. I would always say that Stamullen's just a couple of years behind Ashburn in ways, but very similar traits, if you like. People travelling out of the town to work on a daily basis. And look, at there's certain things that I like to see there with City North and the enterprise lands and stuff like that. But there are other problems that we have in Stamullen that are, some of them are outside of our control, but some of them are within our control. I mean, one in particular is that you can't actually drive from Stamullen through the enterprise lands onto the motorway, which is very logical to all of us. And I suppose one of the stipulations that TII had in a recent planning permission was that we need to show the traffic numbers and the routes and everything else on that. And I'd urge that the council do their part on that to try and get that part to satisfy TII. The alternative is a 4 or 5 kilometre round trip to get onto the motorway. And you know yourself, we're trying to meet climate targets and other bits and pieces like that. And for people's getting home earlier to their families and all that type of thing. Sports amenities are a problem as well. Recently, Gormanston College has had, I suppose, investors there, and they've been trying to produce a Carton House style sports campus there, but in doing so have excluded the public. And we were at public meetings many years ago where we were told that the public wouldn't be excluded from the site, and they were. So it's very disappointing. You know, the latest being the soccer club having to vacate an area there that they shouldn't have to. And a club like the soccer club that would benefit from having a permanent site and permanency and it being able to grow, similar to Colleglin Football Club over here in Ashburn. The other things, I suppose, that Stamullen has then that are really you know, they need to be addressed, and we need to really do our part as councillors and as a council, is the wastewater system. The wastewater system is creaking over there. I'm delighted with Stamullen Objective 16 and 19. 16 specifically is to do with the playground, and 19 is to do with the public realm plan. And what I'd be calling for is an urgency, I suppose. I wanted to get this, and you'll all be aware of it. I wanted to get this county development plan done and dusted in as efficient a manner as we could possibly do it. And why? Because I want to get down to the nitty gritty of the local area plans in Ashburn, and in particular in Stamullen as well. Those local area plans will really give the people living in those areas an insight into what their futures over that county development plan will be. And I'd love to make sure that we have a commitment that Stamullen will come up fairly quickly within that. But in the meantime, we look at public realm, we get the consultants in, we talk to the people in Stamullen, and we get that public realm right, so that when the local area plan comes in, again, like Ashburn and like the park, all the data is there and we're able to go ahead and do what we need to do. There is concerns, I suppose, with some of the dezoning that's there. We were looking at areas where there were to be swaps of zoning and stuff like that, and they didn't happen. But look at that's not a problem. We are dictated to by the figures from the National Planning Framework and the Regional Economic Spatial Strategy, and that's what's dictating the numbers there. But Stamullen in particular must become like Ashburn, self-sustaining town. We need to get more employment in Stamullen, and City North is probably one of the best sites, apart from Ashburn, of course, where you could set up enterprise close to the motorway, close to the airport, close to Dublin, fantastic links in between and everything else. The other thing then that I just wanted to mention was, you know, I suppose because a lot of the areas have been dezoned, we need to keep an eye on what's being built. And there are people there who are developing Stamullen at the moment, and that maybe in future years there will be variations and things like that to see what we can do with it. The linear park itself, which is being zoomed in on there at the moment, is very, very slowly being built. And you guys all know I'm not a fan of developer-led amenities because of the empty promises that we've had over the years, and in particular in my area. And one particular green space, the Riverwalk, or the linear park, another famous linear park in Stamullen, it was part of the 15% green space for a housing estate that's actually not beside where the green space was. So you had this disjointed 15% that was to be given over for it. And part of what that was supposed to be open when the first phase of the housing was opened up, and that first phase of housing has been done and the park hasn't been opened. Now it's prepared and it's ready, but it hasn't opened. So look, at Stamullen, just to sum up, is a young town. It has a very young population, and you know we all have problems in our towns and villages with young people at the moment, and they've no sports to go to because of COVID and everything else. But again, Stamullen is another area where we have a deficit in public amenities, and hopefully this county development plan will address all of those.
Thank you, Councillor. Would we bring in the Chief Executive's response, and then we'll open it to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Cahir. Look, it's Alan here. I'll just clarify, I suppose, provision for open space and community infrastructure, which is within the written statement for Stamullen. So within the written statement, it states that the provision of a walkway along the Delvin River and the development of these lands to provide for both active and passive open space is a key priority of the plan. In order to provide much needed amenity provision in the town, including a public playground, spot objective 1, which I'll just highlight, is on the map here. So spot objective 1 is detailed on the map there as providing a playground, and that relates to objective 16, which is in the written statement, and it states to facilitate the delivery of a town playground on land identified east of Stadalt House, or alternatively on the F1 open space. So there is an element of flexibility, I suppose, in relation to where the playground will be developed. It'll either be east of Stadalt House on the G1 zoning, which you can see there, or on the F1 open space. So that is, there is a spot objective existing on the zoning map in relation to the playground, and there is also an objective, Stamullen objective 16 within the written statement. Just in relation to the zonings, as you can see, the orange zoning here is for G1 community infrastructure around Stadalt House. There is a total of 58 acres, which is 23.4 hectares of G1 zoning existing there. Well, you can see an element of it is developed down to the south there. There is still a significant portion of developable land there just to the north of Stadalt House. In addition to that, this area which I'm highlighting here has been rezoned under the draft plan to community infrastructure also. So that is an additional parcel of community infrastructure zoning which has been added to the draft plan. In relation to the F1 zoning along the Delvin River, there is a total area of 16 acres. It is quite elongated, however, it's an extensive enough zoning in parcels, as you can see there. So that is a total of 16 acres, which equates to 6.5 hectares along the Delvin River. And Stamullen objective 14 in the written statement is to facilitate the provision of a riverside walk adjacent to the Delvin River. So this includes both passive and active recreation space. So in summary, the Chief Executive's response is no change recommended. It is considered there is sufficient G1 and F1 open space zoned lands within the development envelope. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Cahir. Thank you, my colleague Alan Tobin, for bringing forward such a worthy and motion. I want to fully support him on it, and in particular speak on objective number 1 of the council to place a playground in the town, which I think is very crucial. As people will know, I've campaigned for a long while to get a playground into my home village of Lobenstown, which I will say it has transformed the village and given a sense of community to an area. It's where people of Castleton, Rekenny and Lobenstown now come. Representing Deleek, I am very aware that people from Stamullen and Denore have to travel as far in to Deleek for a playground, which is very far. That becomes a thing that you do every fortnight or every 3 or 4 weeks. It's a big day out to bring the kids. Not what it should be. It should be that we have playgrounds in every town and that the children get to go to the playgrounds more often. As with all the obesity figures, with the need for leisure and so forth. So I very much support the creation of playgrounds in every town, particularly Denore and Stamullen, but today we're talking about Stamullen, and I fully support Alan Tobin in his motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Caherlick. Thanks to Alan. I think you said it all there, Alan. Or Councillor Tobin, sorry. And to thank all the people, the massive amount of submissions that were put in from all the people in Stamullen. But just to clarify something there with the map of the linear park that Alan was talking about, that's part of the development. That's not the one that was on the screen. It's up further, yeah. Yeah, up towards Gormanstown. It's not here. It's here at Gormanstown. Yeah, this is it. This is it. It has, I think it's something like 2.5 hectares. That wasn't initially part of the green space for the development across the road. It was actually part of phase 1 for the development that you can see. You see the way it's lined up. You can see that there's a load of houses there beside that park. That park was built 20 years ago before those houses were built. As part of those houses and the new ones which have started across the road. So that's the story with that. It's actually should have been opened when those initial houses were built along that Gormanstown Road. But they're now on phase 1 across the road, and hopefully that will open as soon as that's completed. But anyway, that's just that. Going back to Stadal, to the zone, and that's Stadal. This particular one, the first lot here at Stadal, that was zoned A2 residential, and it's now been proposed to be zoned community. And that linear park behind that is owned by that developer. So it's very unlikely that we will ever see that linear park open because that land has now been zoned community. And if you come over here to Stadal, the bigger patch, you have Stadal House and you have the Redwood Brain Injury Facility. They are 2 separate land holdings. And it would have always been the case that you came in at Stadal, into Stadal House, and you came out the other end. It was a road that came through that land. So it's actually 3 separate owners there. The Brain Facility Unit, that's separate now, and it has its own entrance. And then Stadal House, that's a protected structure, and that has its own entrance. So there are 2 existing immunity facilities. The main piece in the middle, that's privately owned. It's been probably, I would say, over 100 years since anything was done on that site, and I don't see that in the next 100 years that anything will be done on that site. And it is unfortunate that in Stamullen, it's looking like it's going to be the developer-led. We have 3 major sites that have been dezoned. They are now SID applications since last April with Onboard Clonala. If that goes ahead, there's a possibility of another 700 houses in Stamullen. And we're now looking at a map where we don't have the community space to provide for the existing population, never mind a new population if they get this plan. So I don't see where we're going to provide this community space. In fairness to the council, they have been actively trying to buy land in Stamullen, and that's been a real issue. No, it's not there. Nobody wants to sell it. So I think that's all I have to say on that. But I would support Alan on this motion. The real issue is the land for community use, and going forward, it looks like it's going to be developer led. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tolan.
Thanks, Caherlick. Sorry, you came to me there a bit quicker. To fully support my good friend and colleague, Councillor Tobin. I've many friends and family that live in Stamullen, so that is a huge interest of mine, my nieces and nephews. And you know, it's a huge effort for families to pack up the car to take their children out of where they live and out of their town and village to go to a playground. And as Councillor Meade has pointed out, it does become less frequent with the issues around working and working late and all sorts of things that crop up over a weekend. But you know that it's very, very obvious that Stamullen is crying out for these facilities, a badly needed playground, and obviously football pitches for Stamullen Football Club. You know, they're very, very active, great community spirit there, and they've engaged with all of the councillors around the county, I believe, in their desperation to make sure that this is supported and supported fully. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I support my colleague Alan Tobin there on that motion. Thanks a million.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Killian.
Thanks, Caherlick. Obviously, I want to support Councillor Tobin's motion, and indeed, it was very interesting listening to my colleague Amanda Smith, Councillor Amanda Smith, who is a native of Stamullen and who obviously knows every blade of grass within the township. And she recently, there before Christmas, we walked around and she showed me the various areas and the needs of the area, which are many. And again, just listening there, I just feel that this is something that's very necessary for a growing town like Stamullen. And coming from a larger area of Ratoath where we only have one playground and indeed could do with more playgrounds, it's very necessary, and again, it has my full support.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jamal.
Thanks and good morning, Caherlick and everybody. Yeah, I too would like to support this. I think the problem is, and pardon the pun, Caherlick, I know you don't like them, but we are landlocked here, where we on the one hand have the land available, if you like, but we don't have the landowners working with us to release that land. And on the other hand, then the executive, I have to say, have shown great commitment over the last number of years to try and solve this issue. At district level, we've had the Stamullen Needs a Playground group in several times with us, and you know, it is very, very frustrating. I haven't caught up now recently with the group, but I know there was a proposal on the existing GAA grounds. I don't know where that actually got to. That's quite a while ago now. But if there's, look, I think Councillor Tobin and all the district councillors in Ashbourne really want this to be solved for the people and families of Stamullen. So look, whatever we can do here today to move it on, I think we're all committed to do that. But just on that GAA ground, I don't know, maybe Councillor Tobin might have further information on that. Thanks, Caherlick.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Caherlick. I too would like to support my good friend and colleague Alan Tobin on this motion. It's very, very worthwhile. and probably have a. I come from Dunshaughlin, which up to 2016 was near enough a similar sized population as Stamullen. And I can tell you, a playground was put in and a park was put in Dunshaughlin a good number of years ago. And the difference that has made to the community and facilities for, in the last couple of years, we've gotten facilities for a soccer club and our GAA club got an extra pitch. We have to encourage and facilitate in this county development plan the provision of playgrounds, especially in Stamullen, and also try and accommodate any sporting organisations that are out there. It is so important, and especially during COVID. Playgrounds and parks came into their own during this last year, and unfortunately that is going to be with us for a while. And I think we have to do everything we can to encourage it. And I recognise that Meath County Council have objectives in there, but if we can strengthen those objectives, which I think is what Alan Tobin's motion will do, I think that has to help it. And then let's get to the local area plan, and let's get those facilities in. And if there are hindrances by landowners not prepared to release the land for communities infrastructure, well then there's probably means of dealing with that. If it's sitting there and it's not being used, there are methods of dealing with that. So I fully support this motion, and I think it's something that has huge merit. Thank you, Ciara.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bonner.
Yeah, thank you. I too would support this group submission, and I've actually spent a lifetime in working on the coalface, trying to get community facilities provided. And I'm fully aware of the challenges and the energies that are required by community groups to advance and to get provision for community facilities. And I'm not going to say too much about it because it has been well rehearsed and well stated prior to me talking. But I think that community facilities are as important as water and sewage and light and transport. So the day is gone where they should be an afterthought in the development of a town that we've seen too many times where the towns and villages have developed, and then suddenly they realise that or maybe we'll put in a bit of a playground or a bit of a linear park or whatever. I think they need to be front and centre, and I think that this objective really will strengthen our case in trying to provide for our community. So I wish this motion the best, and hopefully we get it through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Ciara. Yeah, no, I just support this motion as well, and just to say that if we want future planning to go smoothly, we need to provide the facilities. Otherwise, you just get constant objections from communities. We see more houses being built without the parks and without the playgrounds. So yes, just for us to be determined to continue with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tormey.
Yeah, Ciara, thanks for that. I too support this motion, and I was going to say what Councillor O'Neill says: to get the public on board, we need to be providing facilities. And hopefully, like we have a great one in Ashburn, and we'd love to see that in Stamullen, but hopefully we don't have to wait as long to see it. But anyway, just to say I will be supporting this motion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Smith.
Hi, just to say there about compulsory orders, these lands, if that's something that's going to happen, these lands are, there's the small bits of lands that are remaining are family land who would have owned the land for years. It's not that it's, well, that's what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't be forcing local families to sell land for community amenities. We should be providing it ourselves and paying for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So we'll go back to Councillor Tobin.
Thanks a million, and thanks to everybody for the support, and in particular to my Ashburn colleagues and to my Fine Gael support as well. There is, as far as I can remember, 250,000 ring fence for the playground. So we have money put by, ready to go, and I suppose we have spent that 7 years. It was advertised in the papers. I think, and I thought it was really, really good that at one stage, Snap had put it into the Farmers Journal even to advertise it, looking for expressions of interest, things like that. So developer-led has let us down, and looking for from landowners in the community hasn't come to fruition either. But we never say never. And as I say, local area plans coming up with things like that. But now, at least with the zonings here as well, and with this particular objective, it increases our options with that. And hopefully that will that will come to fruition. And as people have alluded to, this has taken years and years and years. And the people who started SNAP back in 2014, 15, with kids 3 or 4 years of age, those kids are now 10 years of age. And the longer we wait, all those kids that could have used it, and we know that Stamullen has a deficit in, in things for young people to do. And I know there's efforts being made at the moment for a youth cafe or a youth centre there at the moment, which is also meeting a little bit of resistance by the people who have the buildings that could use it. And there has to be a bit of a sea change there. I mean, it's a great community, and the people who are there need to show that community spirit and help those volunteer community groups that are trying their best to give their kids the best chance at growing up in a fabulous area that they can. So thanks a million to everyone for the support.
Thank you, Councillor. We just go back to CE for a response. Porrick wants to come in there.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Porrick here. Yes, I think I'll just maybe update you regarding a couple of the issues. There were 3 planning applications, I think it might have been Councillor O'Neill referred to them, 3 SHD applications that were with Board Planola that could potentially deliver 600 to 700 units. There are also 3 submissions on the same lands, and I refer to submissions 715, 718 and 728. So there's submissions in each of the pockets of land, and if Alan was able to bring up the 3, maybe identify them there as it is, that site forms one of the submissions, and a current pre-plan and SHD. The other 2 are north of that again, and are on lands that are now rezoned. That's one of them there, and the other one just southwest of that. That's the 3 plots. So those 3 pieces of land were zoned phase 2 in the last plan and have been dezoned or rezoned. So currently, just to update the members, those 3 applications went to on Board Planola as pre-planning under the SHD process, and there were the tripartite meetings which discuss the development between the developer, the council and on Board Planola themselves. So a meeting was had, recommendations and opinion were issued, but the applications were never actually submitted formally to on Board Planola. So at this point in time, those applications have not been submitted, and that's just an update regarding that. The other issues regarding rezone and dezone, and I suppose a key point to make is that there's one large development under construction at the moment in the centre of Stamullen, and there are approximately 205 units permitted on that scheme. That's obviously under construction, and that's the key site. And one thing we might say is that Stamullen is inhibited currently due to servicing arrangements that relates to both water services and roads. And when I say roads, transportation, it's specifically related to the link between City North and Stamullen itself, but they are both linked then to the junction of the M1 where there are capacity issues. So the best way to put it is more work to be done in terms of developing infrastructure, and that's why no significant residential has been granted planning permission at this time, because the services are being sorted out and worked on at present. Finally, regarding this notice of motion by Councillor Alan Tobin, the response is no change required, but that does not mean that we're not doing anything. I think through the valuable contributions this morning, it has been highlighted the many efforts that are ongoing to find playground and develop community facilities in Stamullen, and that will continue. And I just don't want it portrayed to the public that nothing is actually happening. I think the contributions were very valuable and outline behind the scenes all the work that is going on. But for the purposes of this notice of motion, no change is recommended, but that is qualified by the fact that it does not represent the activity that's ongoing. Thank you.
So, thank you, Padraig. We might bring Jackie and then we'll bring in Amanda.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Again, I just want to just reiterate that, just because I said, you know, we're saying there's no change recommended. We as Padraig and Alan would have outlined, the planning objectives we feel are strong enough, but also to confirm, I suppose, the work that we are trying to do and the I suppose the expressions of interest that we have out there, and I suppose more importantly, I suppose the financial commitment that we have provided for within the capital account for those type of facilities in Stamullen, and we'll continue to make that grow. So just to assure members that every effort is being made. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Jackie. Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Padraig, and thanks, Jackie, for that. I just want to point out about the link road on that new development. At the time of, that's actually on the onus of a developer, but not that developer. The onus, the developer who will deliver that, I think it's only about 150 metres left of road to connect it to the City North campus. All his lands have been dezoned. So it's very unlikely that he's going to deliver that. The link road, which is a vital for Stamullen. That particular site of land, that it's the only development left of houses. Now I know I know at the time of writing the statement for Stamullen, I hadn't started, but it's actually most of it is, half of it is, and they're queuing up to buy them. There's a huge demand for them. But anyway, my point was that the linear road is on the onus of the developer. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Councillor. So we'll go back to Councillor Tobin and then we'll move to a vote on this.
Thanks a million. Just to point out as well that myself and Councillor Bonner and at the time Councillor Darren O'Rourke, who did an awful lot of work over in Stamullen and now TD, we had a public meeting on the county development plan attended by over 60 people. I think I recall it was a really, really busy meeting. It was Lisa Mellor organised it from the SCA, and it was a massive turnout. So it really shows the interest in Stamullen and getting these things sorted. I mean, the thing I feel about that, and what Councillor Smith said there now as well, is like the people of Stamullen are almost being held to ransom by people who own the lands, you know, and basically saying, well, if you don't give this, we won't give that. And the people are suffering for a long, long time because of that. And one example is there's a pedestrian link through those lands that allows the public in Stamullen have access up into City North, and that's the only place that the bus service comes to, because the bus service can't come all the way around because the TII won't let us put the road through. So the bus won't come all the way around that 5 or 6 kilometre journey because it just makes that bus service inefficient. And just before Christmas, the week before Christmas, the developer closed off that link. Now, there were instances of antisocial behaviour on it, but there was no reason to stop it or close it. And that's a vital link for people there. Now the people have no choice, again, but to rely on their cars, drive around to City North, clog up the place with cars and everything else, get on the bus to head into work and everything else. So the people who are developing there are not making it easy on the people who already live there and who want to have the best facilities that they can. And Councillor Mead alluded to the point of having to travel to different places to get to go on a swing or a slide or whatever else. So I know it's been covered in the what you call it in the objectives and things like that. It sounds like it's already included. I just wonder if I did bring it to a vote, does it does it strengthen our case for the area by putting it to a vote? And if it does get through, essentially, I'm just in my own mind, that's what I'm doing. I'd love to put it to a vote just to push the point. And then the other thing I'd like as well, as I said in other places, and maybe Corey could answer this, but the local area plan, I mean, everyone, once the county development plan goes through, is going to be saying, well, I'm next for the local area plan. So how are we going to, or what is the order of the local area plans? Is it in order like the tiers that we've gone through? So it's Stamullen down at tier 4, Ashburn in tier 3, or how are we going to sort it out? If it's in alphabetical order, happy days, because Ashburn will be one of the first, but Stamullen will be one of the last. How are we going to get that local area plan together and out? Just my quick query there on that, please, if I can get clarification.
Thank you, Councillor. Just again, Councillor Smith, we just generally, when we return back to the proposer of the motion, the discussion is closed out. We let you in on this occasion, but just to remember that when we go back to the proposer, the discussion is closed. So we'll be back to you, Councillor Tobin, in a second, just to formalise things. And maybe Padraig might respond to your specific questions. But Councillor Smith, for the last time, whatever it is, make it a good one.
Thank you, Caherlick. It's disappointing that the only chance we're going to get for a community development is developer-led. We have one site left that's been developed on now, 200 and odd houses, and nothing has been delivered. So going forward, there will be nothing delivered from a developer. It is very disappointing that this has gone ahead, 200 and something houses, and still nothing delivered for it. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Councillor. So we go to Padraig just to respond to Councillor Tobin's questions. Back to Councillor Tobin, see if he wants to pursue this or wants to withdraw this, because he did indicate he might. And then if not, then we'll do a vote and then we'll move on. So Padraig, if you could answer that, Councillor Tobin's questions, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yep, I think sometime in the past, and when we were probably operating from the solstice, we had a discussion on local area plans, and there was a slide put up within local area plans proposed. There are 15 in total, but those 15 will have to qualify how they accord with the Planning and Development Act. Statutorily, we have to do local area plans for settlements which are in excess of 5,000 persons. Local area plans are then optional for settlements with population 1,500 to 5,000. Stamullen falls within that category. So in order of priority, and it would not be by choice, we will have to do local area plans statutorily for the settlements that are over 5,000. So it's automatic that they would be the ones that must get done first. The issue then is which of the others get done, and they are the remaining ones that fall between 1,500 and 5,000. So the priority would be obviously to look at which are the more important ones, but I guess that would be a discussion with the members, and certainly it could be a choice if the members felt collectively that Stamullen was right up there and needed to be done very quickly, then that is what we would do. So that's simply Alan has just put up on screen there. In terms of which settlements within County Meath will require local area plans. So they are listed, and of the statutory ones, there are 2 joint urban plans, which were South Drogheda and Maynooth. The remaining ones would be statutory local area plans, and then the ones just below that at Boy, Dunshaughlin, Duleek, Enfield, Oldcastle and Stamullen are the optional ones, which they're not optional, but they're listed between over 1,500 to 5,000 people. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you. I suppose one final thing I would say is, in terms of being clear, what our members, it is the view of the executive, there is no change provided, and that is on the basis of the objectives that are included within the Stamullen written statement. So just to be clear for Councillor Alan Tobin that's bringing this forward, if members are being asked to do something, we just need to know what it is that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Padraig. So Councillor Tobin, we'll return to you.
Yeah, thanks a million. So, look, I'm really happy with the conversation that we've just had. And I mean, you can see there that the 6 councillors in Ashburn Municipal District are united behind doing what we can for Stamullen in our time within the next, whatever it is, 4 years that we're elected to the area. I'm happy enough that it's included in the objective already. And I'm also happy with the Chief Executive's response and with Pádraig's response as well. So I won't go to a vote. I will accept the no recommendation because you've afforded me a huge amount of time, Cathaoirleach, to discuss everything that we've discussed, and I'm really, really happy with that discussion. And thank you very much for affording us the time on that.
Thank you very much, Councillor. So you're in agreement with the Chief Executive's response. So we just put that to the chamber. So we show of hands if you are in agreement. Councillor Toole?
Sorry, I'm in agreement. I've jumped the gun.
Jumped the gun. Those are very, very highly strung trigger fingers we have this morning. So please hold on. Unless you want to comment, we're not gone to the vote yet. As with every other vote, we were specifically asked at a specific time to raise your hand. So if you're in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation that no change, Councillor Tormey? Dad, we're very ready to go this morning. If you are in agreement with the Chief Executive's response, please indicate your agreement by raising your hand. And now, thank you. Thank you, councillors. If you could lower your hands, please. Councillor McGinty.
Have you just clarified the vote we're on now? Sorry.
153. Councillor Michael Gallagher. If you could just lower your hand, please.
Is it for or against that we're on now?
We've just done in the agreement. Now we're going to go to not in agreement. So anybody who is not in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation, please indicate that now. Okay, thank you very much. So that's 26 in agreement, nobody in disagreement. Thank you very much. So we move on to notice of motion 154. Councillor Alan Tobin, if we have a seconder for that motion, please. Councillor Amanda Smith. So, Councillor Tobin.
Thank you very much, Cathaoirleach. And again, the linear park, and we had this similar argument over in Ratoath with my former colleague Councillor Toole, where we were talking about a linear park, which generally, and in this case again in Stamullen, it's along a floodplain, so it is of no other use, only for a park. But that there's no kind of central area, central park, a gathering space, I suppose, for people in Stamullen. Literally, for people who aren't familiar with Stamullen, you have the main spine road going through the village itself, but there's nowhere really else to congregate, meet people, sit down, have a coffee or whatever it is, play with children or anything like that. No central space, no heart, I suppose, of the village itself that is missing from Stamullen itself. And within Stamullen, the centre of Stamullen, you have a lovely old space called Watery Park. Fantastic little oasis of calm, I'd call it, within the village there itself. But I think with this objective, and I suppose Pádraig might come in on this one, or Alan, I think we have zoned an area appropriately where we could put in some sort of a central plaza, I suppose. It's not up to us to do it, but that as people come in with different ideas and planning and stuff like that, we might be able to provide that type of space there. But the thing is, my worry is, and again, the planners might confirm this, if these, I don't know are they SHZs or not, but these planning permissions that are on the lands that are to be dezoned, if they do come through the on board Clonala, my worry is that we'll see an even bigger deficit in public space and parkland and stuff like that within Stamullen itself. And like Ashburn, there is evidence there. It's evidence-based from Stamullen Needs a Playground, where they have gone out and they have looked at the data and the statistics and everything else, and they know that there is this deficit in the area. Now I know that we're addressing it within the last motion in some places, but I suppose to highlight the fact that if these SHZs come through and you do get that larger amount of housing coming through, this, I know we could revisit it in the local area plan, but again, that's 2 or more years away by the sounds of things. So I'm just curious to hear from the planners maybe on this.
Thank you, Councillor. Should we go to the Chief Executive?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think the conversation very much we've just had on the previous motion is similar. I'm not quite sure which plot of land Councillor Tobin is referring to. I presume it's maybe this one around the church that is highlighted here. There was a submission on it, and it's zoned G1 in the draft plan, and I'm not sure what the outcome was. It is now B1, but either zoning would facilitate any type of leisure community facilities, and I guess it is centrally located and ideally located in the middle of Stamullen effectively. So it would be a very good location for community facilities. We realise there's limited parking around the chapel itself, so there is obviously parking issues there, and there would need to be upgrading of the road in front of it, but certainly it is ideally located if further development or community development was to be developed. And again, both zonings are quite sufficient, either or. It's currently zoned, I think it's B1 village centre, so that is an appropriate zoning that could accommodate any type of open space. I believe there is archaeology on this site as well, so there are constraints in itself, so which would lend itself to looking more at sort of community passive uses. So if that is the site, then maybe I'll just pass back to there is no change recommended specifically on this notice of motion, but just to point out that it was G1 in the draft, and that under that submission it is now B1. Thank you.
Thank you, Padraig. Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Caherlick, and thanks to Alan for putting it forward. Yeah, 100% supported. But could I just ask Padraig there about the protected structure? I don't think there's a protected structure there. I think that the church and the graveyard it's down further. Now that I know this one is down further, that's all protected. But I don't think there's, it says here that there's a burial ground associated with the adjacent church, but I don't think that's the burial ground that's at the other church that's protected within the graveyard. Maybe you could clarify that for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We just might go back to Padraig again on that, if that's clarification.
Yep, just bear with me 1 second. Okay, as we understand it, obviously St. Patrick's Church is there. It is the area around it is identified. It's not on the current map, but as we understand it, that is a protected structure. And whilst investigating that submission on the said lands surrounding it, we were advised that there could be archaeology issues that would have to be investigated further. And that will ultimately determine what type of development can go on this site. So as we understand it, that is a protected structure there, and the land surrounding may have archaeology, which will influence the type of uses that can be permitted here. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So we're going to go back to Councillor Tobin now to finish out the debate. Councillor Tobin.
Yeah, thanks a million. And again, look, I'll accept what the planners say on this one. I think we need to also look within the local area plan at a site, a suitable site for parkland and stuff like that. I just have a query about OBJ1 as a possibility for the playground. We were looking at that at one stage before. Is that still a runner under that current? It's the same type of zoning. I think it is still a runner under that if that was a suitable site. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. So is that a specific question, or we just move on?
That was the question, yeah, it wasn't a statement.
Yeah. So Patrick might just, or somebody might respond, and then we'll move to the vote. If that's agreeable, Councillor Tobin?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. OBJ1 refers to the housing strategy in the Stamullen statement. Sorry, I'll just clarify of Councillor Tobin just exactly what the question is.
Again, I was talking about a central type plaza area, a place to congregate, a place like I feel that a town needs an identity and needs a public space like that to you know, for the central space for the Christmas tree, the central space to meet and celebrate and stuff like that. And that's another area that I was looking at just for that type of development or whatever there. And I presume under that objective, it could be put in there too.
Yes, Chair. We have that. Alan has brought up the specific objective to which Councillor Tobin refers, and it reads to support the provision of a link to the Delvin River and the provision of a playground and associated facilities as part of any development of the town centre and zone lands. And as I understand it, what Councillor Tobin's asking is that reference is then made to the current site under discussion in the centre of the town. This area which we've just been talking about, could that be an alternative location also? And the simple answer is yes, it could.
Perfect. Okay, I agree with the Chief Executive. Thanks for allowing me the time again. And just all I'd be looking for then is a raise of hands to agree with the Chief Executive. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor. So we'll move to the and we'll move there now. So in a moment you will be asked if you agree with the Chief Executive's recommendation of no change recommended. If you do, in fact, agree with that, please indicate that by raising your hand now. Thank you, councillors. If you could lower your hands, please. Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Fox. Thank you very much. Councillor, thank you, Councillor. And if you're not in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation, please indicate that now by raising your hand. Okay, thank you very much. So that's 25 in agreement, nobody in disagreement. So now we'll move on to the notice of motions from the floor. First notice of motion from the floor is Councillor Amanda Smith. If you have a second for that notice of motion, please. Councillor Ashing O'Neill. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Catherine. The reason I'm putting this motion forward is obviously everything we've talked about, the desperate need for community and public open spaces, and the lack of them that we have. And I welcome that the executive, has agreed to a local area plan for Stamullen, and that plan would be within the life plan of this county development plan. But the reason I put this forward is because we can't wait 6 years in Stamullen for a local area plan to take place. We need this to happen as soon as it possibly can. I'd ask for it to be done within the 2 years for all the reasons that we have spoke about. One is the M1 link road. We need to get connected to the city north. I mean, you can't, there's a public transport bus from there that was used until now. It's been blocked. You actually can't cycle or walk to there. You have to drive
Sorry,
through.
Councillor, for 1 second. Ashling Dempsey, Councillor Dempsey, do you wish to indicate something? Sorry, Councillor
Yes,
Smith.
sorry, Cahill. Thank you. Sorry for not being quick enough there. I think I have a conflict in relation to this NOM due to the landowner being my employer. So if we could just go into the waiting room. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Apologies, Councillor Smith. We'll just make sure that Councillor Dempsey is left. Okay. Sorry about that, Councillor. Thank you.
No problem. Where was I? Sorry. Yeah, the link road. You can't actually. People are now starting to walk up through the field to it. It's very dangerous. But anyway, it's not the route. You can't actually walk to it, and I tell you why you can't walk to this or cycle to it. You have to drive to Gormanstown into Julianstown and then go back towards the motorway. So you're actually entering the motorway to get to the city north. So there is no access if people did want to cycle to it. They would have to, you can't go on the motorway. But given the fact, the stuff I've talked about, the community zone, and it is there, and I know myself that some of that won't be, zoned for community. There's a real urgent need to provide this community amenity space, particularly since COVID. It was highlighted even more. I think to get the local area plan done as quickly as we can, and given the fact as well that there's so many lands there being dezoned, that if they do, they've gone to onboard Penala, and if they ever get planning, we're looking at a completely different picture here, But I think that's the main reasons why I think we need to get the local area plan, and I would ask the executive if this is possible, if it can be done within two years, please. Thank you.
Councillor Des.
Thanks, Cahir. Look, just to come in on the aspect of the link road and some background in relation to that. It is an objective of the council to see that link road provided and the connection of Stamullen to the motorway at Junction 7. And it is included in the Stamullen written statement, and it is also included as an objective in the movement chapter. However, there is opposition to this happening from the TII, and on a recent planning application, Meath County Council, as part of the development proposal, granted permission for the link road. That was appealed to Onboard Planola by the TII, and Onboard Planola refused the permission for the link road on the basis that there are capacity issues at that particular junction. Now the council are still keen to facilitate this happening, and there have been discussions with the developer in question and public representatives going back as far as a year ago to see how this can be moved forward. And we will continue to have those discussions to see how this objective can be realised. And it may be that in a post-COVID scenario, the issues at the junction and the traffic on the motorway may be reduced, and there may be a different outlook on the provision of the link road. I should also say that the outcome of our discussions and our proposals on Julianstown may also have a bearing on this. We have put forward a number of options to deal with the fact that there's over 20,000 vehicles going through Julianstown at the height of the pre-COVID era, and that ultimately our preferred option there is a bypass of Julianstown, and that may well have a bearing on this particular link road provision. So we will continue to have those discussions. We're not sure if we did put forward the idea of doing a transport plan, such as we did up at Dunboyne, where we got agreement between the TII and the NTA developers ourselves that how a transport a plan and study would help solve some of the issues there with access to the motorway. And perhaps that is the way forward here. But just to finish by saying we'll continue to facilitate this proposal, and it remains an objective in our county development plan. Thanks, Cathaoirleach.
Thank you, Des. So we might just go to planning just to get the formal response recommendation from the to the motion, and then we'll go back to councillor. We'll go to Councillor Tobin.
I'll come in on this one, Cathaoirleach. Thank you. The Chief Executive recommendation to this notice of motion is no change recommended, and that's on the basis that no change is required. It's our statutory obligation to prepare local area plans within 6 months of a county development plan having been adopted. And we set out earlier, I suppose Alan brought up the screen in terms of the hierarchy of plans that we must start dealing with. And of course, it would be our intentions maybe to come back to the council at that stage to get the council to agree any such plans and the order in which we will deal with them. So Stamullen certainly is on the list for local area plan. It'll be subject to resources, and it'll be subject to the council agreeing the list of how we will deal with the local area plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Councillor Tobin.
Thanks a million. Just while Des is there, and a transport specific question on that link road to City North, can you just give clarification as to what exactly that decision was with, I think it was on board Planala. Was the ball not thrown back into our court, as in Meath County Council's court in some way, and the developers' court, where traffic surveys and justification and numbers and other bits and pieces like that were to be given to TII, and I'm just wondering if that was the case, when can we get that done, or how soon could we get that done?
Yes, Cathaoirleach, that was mentioned in the inspector's report on that particular planning decision. It says that some technical issues that may be possible to further investigate and provide more detailed information, such as the potential extent of traffic that would be attracted to the M1 from the west of Stamullen, that more details could be brought forward in relation to that. And we are having discussions with the developer and his agents as to the information and the details that need to be brought forward. And as mentioned earlier in this process with Councillor Smith, we do think that the developer should bring forward or engage with his own consultants to bring forward that information as part of the new planning application. But we're available to facilitate and to assist and to advise on the type of information that's required in order, hopefully, to satisfy the TII regarding their concerns. Thanks, Cathaoirleach.
Thank you, Des. That respond to your question, Councillor Tobin, satisfactorily?
Yes, but just one small little bit, if I could.
Okay, and then we're going to go to Councillor Smith to close out the debate. So
sorry, am I coming in there now?
Yes, and then we're going to go to Councillor
Smith.
Smith.
One little addition. Just the fact that Fingal, Walsh's town exit there, we'd say at Balbriggan, an awful lot of the traffic would head down back roads to that particular exit. Would part of that survey, would we have to engage with Fingal to try and get some of the figures, or literally would the roads at the border, because the river there is actually the border, for people who don't know, just to see how much of that traffic is actually going to Fingal and then getting onto the motorway? Because this to me is really nonsensical, because from the TII point of view, because this traffic is getting onto the motorway, but it's going every which way to get onto it, except for the low carbon footprint way, if you like, you know. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, Cathaoirleach, it would be my view that as Councillor Tobin mentions, that information needs to be part of the solution that comes forward. Thanks, Cathaoirleach.
Thank you, Des. And we finally going to go to Councillor Smith to close out the discussion. Councillor Smith. Sorry, Councillor, if you could just unmute yourself, please.
Hi, I'm breaking up a bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, if you switch off your video, it might
Hello?
help. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear us? If you switch off your video, it may help.
I am.
Okay, is that better?
It's breaking up. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes?
I have. It's turned off.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, yes. We can hear you. It's breaking up, but we can hear you if you...
Oh my God. I can't. No, it's breaking up. I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Hi.
Hello? Okay.
Can you hear me
us?
now?
We can hear you now, yes. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Cathaoirleach. Thank you.
Okay, if you just
Hello?
want to make your closing comments.
Hello? You can't hear me.
Yes, so if you'd like to make your closing comments, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, okay. Clearly you're not in a position to hear us. Okay, I think what we might do is...
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Councillor. Yes, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay. Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and thanks to Des and Sean. I'd ask the members to think of, to please support. I think we're gone again, am I?
No, we can hear you, Councillor. Just keep going. What we might do, the next motion is Councillor Smith's as well. Is it possible to dial in? Is it possible for her to dial into the meeting? If you bear with us for 1 second, members. Okay, what we might do is we might just pause this until we can get in contact with Councillor Smith, because notice the motion 2 is also Councillor Smith's. So we go to Sean. He said there is a group submission that needs to be discussed.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Yes, I suppose we deferred a group submission back from the earlier days on group submission number 6, Stamullen Development Plan Working Group. And this related to very much the same issues that have been debated in Councillor Tobin's motions from the floor, 153 and 154. I'm sharing them there on the screen. I'm not sure if you can see them. I'll call them up. There we go. So it was deferred at the meeting earlier on before Christmas, and to this point now, there was Chief Executive's response and saying was no change recommended. But we did agree to defer it to allow Councillor Tobin's motions from Stamullen be heard. So I suppose if you want to take this now, it would be an opportune time to take it. On the basis of Councillor Tobin's responses to his submissions 153 and 154, it means it's the same outcome to submission number 6, which is no change recommended. So we'll need to get a proposer and a seconder on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith, are you there? Councillor Smith, can you hear us?
Sorry, I was just trying to get on
Excellent.
there.
You're back. Excellent. Well done. Well done.
I'm
So
back.
just to
Sorry.
give you a
Sorry
slight,
about
so just to let you know, we moved on slightly. We'll be back to your two motions. So
Okay.
what we've done is we've moved on to the group submission for Stamullen. So it's just there's no change. It was a group submission that we had moved today to see if Councillor Tobin's motions would have impacted on them. They didn't. So there's no change. So we can take the group submissions now. We're just in the same manner as we've taken group submissions in the past, that we take a collection of them together, and there's no change to them. So you haven't missed anything, if is what I'm saying. So what we're just going to do is we're going to take the group submissions subject to Councillor Tobin. Does he want to propose those group submissions?
I propose them, yeah, please, yeah.
And if we have somebody to second the group submissions? So Councillor O'Neill. Okay, so we'll take a show of hands on to agree with the Chief Executive's recommendation of no change to these group submissions, and then we'll return to Councillor Smith's motion. So if you're in agreement with Chief Executive's recommendation on the group submissions of no change recommended, please indicate that now. Thank you. Okay. And if you lower your hands, please, members. And if you are not in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation, please indicate that now. Okay. So again, we're returning to notice of motion number 1. Oh, that's 23-0. So we're returning to notice number 1. So maybe Councillor Dempsey would like to. Neil, oh, she's showing me.
Come back in.
Yeah. So you might step out. We haven't concluded the.
Okay.
Thank you. Step in, step out again. Learning to dance. Okay, thank you. So just to, back to Councillor Smith's notice of motion number 1. Councillor, just your closing comments on that. Nothing had moved on. We immediately moved on to those group submissions. So we had no further discussion. So on your notice of motion. So if you just want to do your concluding comments, and then we verified the Chief Executive's response. I believe it is no change required or no change necessary because it's not required. But I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. So, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Caherlick. I'll keep this short because we've kind of said everything that needs to be said, but I'd really ask the members to support this motion for the people of Stamullen, that we can progress quickly with our local area plan. Thank you, Caherlick.
Councillor, and we just again, because there was a little break and we did something in between, we did just to make sure people are clear on what the Chief Executive recommendation is. If Sean, if you just come back in again to us there, please. So everyone is clear.
Yes, thank you, Caherlick. Chief Executive recommendation is no change recommended on the basis that no change is required. It is a requirement of us to do what Councillor Smith is asking us to do anyway. Thank you.
Okay. So Councillor Smith, you're clear on that it is already contained within our objectives.
Just to ask, it's within the 6 months, within the 6 years.
Okay.
That the local area plan would be done within the lifetime of this development plan. What I'm asking for is if an objective can be put in to ask for a local area plan to commence within 2 years of this development plan, just to ensure that it does commence within 2 years. That's really what I'm asking for. You know, it's an objective to ask for it to commence within the 2 years, as opposed to the lifeline. Thank you.
Okay, so that's everybody clear. So you'll be asked the Chief Executive's recommendation is no change recommended. Councillor Tolan.
Yeah, no, I'm slightly unclear now from what Councillor Smith is asking, because I understood that Sean's response was that statutorily the local area plans must commence preparation within 6 months. So did I pick that wrong wrong, Sean? The local area plans will begin preparation within 6 months of the adoption of this county development plan.
Here, look, if I could come in on that one. Yes, Councillor Tolan, you're correct. Within 6 months of us adopting a county development plan, we must prepare our local area plans. The programme of works with regards to our local area plans is determined by the tiered structure that has been set out as per the meetings schedule that we've been working on. Councillor Smith wants us to do hers within 2 years, apologies. And we would say, yes, certainly that would be our intention. It's subject to resources. But with regards to whether the hierarchy of certain plans, that could be determined by the council themselves by agreeing which ones we will go to after the required ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean. Councillor Smith, your hand's up again.
Sorry, I got cut off at the start of Sean's. Would he mind?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, okay. It just keeps breaking up on me. Sorry.
No problem. Sean.
Sure, thanks, Cahirlock. Yes, Councillor Smith, just to assure you, we're required by legislation within 6 months of adopting a county development plan to start preparing local area plans. They will be done based on the hierarchy of the tiers that we have been dealing with throughout the county development plan meetings. So beginning with Southern Environs of Drogheda, for example, which is a joint urban area plan, and moving on down. We would be our intentions to get to Stamullen within the 2 years. However, that could be moved up the rankings, and that would be a matter for the members to agree as part of maybe a separate meeting in terms of what plans we're going to get and when. Thank you.
So with that said, Councillor Smith, are you happy enough to accept the Chief Executive's recommendation that this already is contained within? It has implications to other local area plans as well. So it will affect many members in this chamber. So that.
Yeah, I know that, but I think it's key. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes, Councillor. You can, if you disappear, I'll let you know. Again. Can you hear us? Yeah, it may be necessary for Councillor Smith to dial in on the phone. So in the meantime, we might just verify that Councillor Tobin is in fact accompanied by not an agent of any landowner or developer who's sitting on his knee.
Here, look, I think it's bad enough that we have to listen to Alan Tobin, that he's subjecting his daughter to it as well. Like, it's very unfair.
You might just pop her back into the photograph there for a sec, or into the camera for a second, Alan, so people who may have missed the first part might wonder what I'm talking about. So
I think I'm back in now.
Okay.
He's having a good laugh at us anyway.
So Councillor Smith, you're back. Okay, I think what we might have to do is ask Councillor Smith to dial in via phone as opposed to online, and then we'll be able to hear the audio, and then I think there's no discussion around any further maps or anything, so I think it'd be appropriate for her to participate, because we're just about to go to an indication of agreement or disagreement.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, Councillor. Yes. We're going to.
Look, it's really important that we do this. It's really important that we do this within 2 years. I understand that it could start in 6 months, but there's a possibility that it won't. So I would like to take this to a vote, please, just to guarantee that we copper fast the local area plan for Stamullen. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think just again, for clarification, just in case there's a belief that this would copper fast, because again, it's an object. Does this copper fast in anything, Sean? Is this as the intention of?
Look, it would all be subject to resources, so it will not copper fast it. You might recall our county development plan was originally 2019 to 2026. We're currently in 2021, so we can't foresee what might come ahead in the future. However, it would be every intention that a local area plan would be done for Stamullen within 2 years. Thank you.
Okay, so we're clear on that. We're going to go to a vote now on that. If you're in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation that no changes is recommended, please indicate that now. Councillor Smith, could you vocalise your vote, please, just so we can, if you're in agreement or disagreement. So I'll just give you the opportunity now that to say if you're in agreement. If you're not, then obviously we'll wait. If you can use the hand function.
I'm in disagreement.
Okay, that's no problem. That's all right. Just to make sure that you were there. That's okay.
I'm in disagreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll hold on. So in 1 second, we'll ask you that question. It's just to make sure that you're not gone. So if you could lower your hands, members. If you lower your hands, members. And if you could indicate if you're not in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation, please indicate that now. Councillor Smith, is it not you're? So Councillor Smith, you're not in agreement, is that correct? Well, she's indicated that she's not in agreement, so we're happy.
Yes, not in agreement, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry.
No problem. Okay, just say, so if you could lower your hands, please, councillors, thank you. Councillor Damien O'Reilly, thank you. So that's 18 in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation and 6 not in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation. The Chief Executive's recommendation stands. So we move on to notice of motion 2, Councillor Amanda Smith. Councillor, are you with us?
Yep.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm here.
You can hear, yeah. So if you have a second for Councillor Smith's motion, Councillor Geraldine Keoghan. So Councillor Smith, the floor is yours.
Yes, can hear. I am. Just to talk briefly about this one. This it's circled there in on the map. It's lands that were zoned.
Sorry for 1 second, Councillor Smith. Is Councillor Dempsey back in the room? Apologies again for interrupting you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, it's Councillor Smith. Sorry for interrupting you again.
Okay, no problem.
Go on ahead, please.
The lands there that are circled, they were zoned G1 in past development plans, and since then its submission 874 was made by the landowner to zone them back town residential, which I think is appropriate for where it is with the church and one of the oldest houses in the village is there. So something that would, you know, I have no problem with it being zoned back town residential because it is part of it. But what I am asking the council is that at the local area plan that we look at that size of land to be allocated somewhere else. And if that could be done at the local area plan, that we don't lose out on that G1 space. Thank you, Carla. And can it be done?
Thank you, Councillor Smith. We go to the CE's response, please.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Just in reference to this section of land, as Councillor Smith has referred to, the zoning was changed from G1 to B1 as per submission MHC 5874. As I stated at the beginning at this morning's meeting, there is a large G1 zoning existing around Stadalt House, which is 58 acres, which equates to 23.5 hectares of G1 zoning. So the Chief Executive is satisfied that there is sufficient G1 zoning within Stamullen. However, this is something that can be reassessed when we do get to the local area plan stage. It's also important to note that the B1 zoning would facilitate community uses as well. Community facilities are a permitted use under the B1 zoning also, but it is something that can be looked at in more detail when we do get to the local area plan stage. So the Chief Executive's recommendation would be no change recommended in this instance.
And Alan, just before you leave, there's a submission there. If you want to make reference to 874.
Yes, submission 874, it was the Chief Executive recommendation to change the zoning from G1 to B1. So we will be coming to that when we get to the submissions.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Councillor Smith.
No, I'm happy with that as long as we do make up for that space within the local area plan. I'm happy to take that from the executive.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So we'll go to a vote. With a voting page, please. So, as per usual, the Chief Executive's response, as you know, is no change recommended. So, if you're in agreement with the Chief Executive's response, please indicate that now. And if you could lower your hands, please, members. Councillor Tobin. And if you're not in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation, please indicate that now. So we have 24 in agreement, nobody in disagreement. So then we go to submissions for Stamullen now, please, Sean.
Thanks, Cahirlock. I'll just call up the submission screen for you now.
Councillor Smith, sorry, Councillor Smith has her hand up.
No, I just wanted to say something before we go to the submissions.
Okay.
It's a typing error on just before it goes back out to public display. Stadalt is spelled S-T-A-D-L-T. The oldest variant on the old maps is look, everyone spells it S-T-E-D-A-L-T in Stamullen. The oldest variant is S-T-A-D-A-L-T. It's just if you wanted to amend it on the written statement and the response to some of the submissions, it's spelled wrong. It's an error, a typo error, I would say. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor. So we move on to the submissions, please.
Thanks, Cahirlock. Yes, submissions from Stamullen. 15 submissions in total received. 14 where no change is recommended and 1 where a change is recommended. And just to clarify, none of the discussions previous have changed the outcome of that. Thanks, Cahirlock.
Audio. Sorry, we have 14. If you could just pull up the picture. So we have a many for no change recommended. 14. So if you proposer and seconder for no change recommended, please.
Hold if I can.
Councillor Tobin.
Seconded.
Councillor Jamal. So we go to the voting page, please. And when Councillor Smith.
Yeah, could I just say I disagree with one of them, but I would agree with the rest. I just disagree with the one motion that wasn't passed. If that could be noted, but I agree with the rest.
Oh, we're just talking about the submissions now. So so we'll move on to the book of submissions, which we've closed off the motions and we're on to the submissions.
Oh, okay. No, I missed that. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. No problem. So if you're in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation of no change to those recommendations, please, or to those submissions, please indicate that now. Thank you. If you could lower your hands, please, members.
Yeah, got that. They're all on the hand function at the moment.
And if you could raise your hands if you're not in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation for the submissions, please do that now. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So that's 22 in agreement, nobody in disagreement. And we hand you back to Sean for the change recommended.
Thank you, Cahirlock. And the remaining one then is 1 change recommended.
So have a proposer for that, please. Councillor Smith, have you a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Tobin. So if you're in agreement with the Chief Executive's recommendation, please raise your hand now. If you are not in agreement with the chief exec, oh, sorry, if you lower your hand, please. Thank you, members. Councillor Tobin, Councillor McGuinty. Thank you very much. If you're not in agreement with the chief executive's recommendations, please indicate that now. Excellent, thank you very much. So it's 24 in agreement, nobody in disagreement. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes Stamullen. So we move on.